Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome. Oh, wow. Great to see your smiling faces and your waves. And yeah, I think we're going to have a beautiful, deep session today. And we were just talking this morning, that was quite a movie, very profound movie, I think. At least, if it does nothing else, it stirs things up in you to take a close look at things maybe that were down there but weren't quite on the surface. And then you watch a movie like that, and then with such a strong example, then you start to go, uh, how am I not like that? It's like I heard Huckabee's, wow, how am I not like that? And then you start to get more in touch with the inner part of you that yearns for that simplicity and humbleness and peace. Yeah. So it's quite a journey, quite a deep journey. And yeah, this is our session for questions and answers, and we appreciate all the questions that you've written in, and yet when we pray on the questions and we really go inside to the spirit, for inspiration, what comes to us again is just like in that movie where when you go to God, you really have to be willing to let everything go in your mind. And when I watch that movie, I just have tears of joy because I see that there's a presence that's so loving and so peaceful and humble, but it doesn't fit in an institution, and it doesn't fit in an organization, and it doesn't fit in a family, and it doesn't fit in this world. And what Jesus is telling us throughout the Course is that you have to bring your illusions to the truth. It doesn't work the other way around. You cannot bring the truth into illusion. And so if we look at history, we can see examples of churches and synagogues, of sacred rivers and sacred sites, and we can see attempts, even the Tower of Babel. I think the intention was to try to build a tower toward God, but God isn't in the sky. That's the only problem with that direction. And I think when we go deep inside, we start to realize that we're called into simplicity instead of complexity. We're called into stillness instead of busyness. And we're called into this quiet alignment in our hearts that really can't be reconciled with the world. And as we go forward, take our steps, it seems like just like our main character, he had to keep letting go and keep the faith. And every step was kind of shown for him, but it was always a step in letting go until the very end, when his eyes got real wide when he was laying in the bed, and he got a smile on his face, and he said, Lord, are you speaking to me? And he got so excited. And then he passed very quietly with the beautiful state of surrender and grace on his face. And that, I think, is kind of an example, a demonstration for all of us that's the way that it goes.
Yeah, it's such a treat to be able to see a movie about a saint, and I think it's like Jesus and so many other saints. Their life is such a example and a demonstration and a teaching device. Because when I look at this Saint Nectarius, yeah, his life is like, okay, he is facing all these situations that, to a lesser degree, that probably we're very tempted to think we're facing on a daily basis. Misunderstood, misaccused, what happens now? But I love his innocence, because he doesn't seem to have any outcome in mind. He just have such a simple attitude, like childlike, very childlike, look at any situations like, oh, okay. But with this love in his heart, he said, I must leave Greece because he loved the patriarch so much. He called him his father. He's like, I leave. And he left out of this love. I don't want to compete or cause anything. But there was no struggle at that point. When his attitude is one of just, okay, I will find this attitude inside. And I just think, wow, what a demonstration and what an example, what a teaching device his life is to use all kind of situations. Really, that's how I see it. Like, in the end, he's such a bearer of light because everything he touches, people felt the love of God. And I think one thing that, David, you mentioned yesterday was, doesn't matter what seems to be taken away, nothing can take away his direct communion with God, his prayer. And I also see that nothing can really take away the function God gives to him. He always has a function to fulfill, all the time. And if that's really the only thing that matters to us in this world, then we're never going to be lacking because God sustains us with his function. And that is the way to be happy, because my happiness and my function are one. So even to see that, I was thinking, yeah, how can we say there is anything lacking when you always have this opportunity given by God? Doesn't matter the location, the people surrounding him. He is there to give and receive the love from people around him and receive the love of God.
Yeah. Yeah, when the movie starts off, they take his position of being a priest away. Of course, when they take away your position of priest, they take away your parish and your congregation. And then it's kind of interesting to me when he then just flows along, goes to Greece, and he seems to have nothing when he shows up. He has been stripped of his position. And then when he goes, finally, after a year of just going around and just staying in his function to be truly helpful, without any kind of structure to it, then they say, well, you should go see this man, and he can get you assigned as a preacher, which in that system, to go from priest to preacher is a big demotion. And then he's told, oh, but you're not even Greek. This is how it works when you start to have things fall away. He couldn't probably imagine losing his position as a priest, his parish, and then you're not even Greek. The part, where were you born? Oh, that part is not part of Greece anymore, you're not Greek. And it seems to go on all the way to the end of the movie where it's basically, he prays to Mother Mary, but basically he has the Lord left. He has Jesus left when everything else has fallen away. And this is really what A Course in Miracles, and this is what the authentic spiritual path is about. You can't really try to turn it around and bring the truth into the illusion. I know we've all read lots of self-help books. Most of us probably have read a whole library of self-help books, but actually the Course is not about self-help. It's basically saying the self that God created doesn't need any help, unless you use that part that Greg was reading about. There's a little child in you, the Christ child, who wants to go home, and he needs to be quiet for a while. Now that's the kind of capital self-help, which is drawing you into the stillness and saying, rest your mind from all these foolish pursuits that you've you've given yourself over to. Rest your mind from the roles, loosen from the roles that you've learned, where you believe your worth was tied into achieving something in the world or being good at some role, because the role of forgiveness is really a role of letting go of all the concepts and emptying your mind. So it's not something that you can attain in the world. You don't really get a forgiveness certificate at some point. You have peace of mind that comes to you, but you don't get any kind of recognition from the world of images. You just go inside and you can feel the joy of connecting with your Creator and the joy of that expansive, vast love. And I think it's a beautiful humbleness too, because it's a humbleness of inner rest. It's not a humbleness of putting on a show or wearing a mask or trying to be a humble person. I think Nectarius, he just reflected to us the humbleness that we have inside when we're emptied out and opened up, and we're just have our open arms and open hands to God and say, show the way. So it's so beautiful to see that it's just about letting go. And finally you can begin to let go of this game of achieving something, wanting to be known in the world, not wanting to find your niche. Yeah, Nectarius, he found his niche. It was the Greek Orthodox Church. That was his niche. He just loved the man that called him to Egypt. What's that called? The starts with a P. The patriarch. Yeah, he loved the patriarch. He was happy to serve the patriarch, and then that all was gone, and he didn't understand it. And he was happy to serve in Greece with the church that was there. He was happy to serve with the nuns. He really seemed to want to hang in there when he was told, I think you can go now. You've done so well, and we're very grateful. And his response was, I will never betray you. And yet, in the end, he had to really surrender and let everything go. And so the journey that we've gone through and we've experienced is very much of letting go. Do you have to let go of your family? You have to let go of your concept of your family. Do you have to let go of your career? Yeah, you have to let go of your concept of your career. Your country, yes, it came to him in a way where he wasn't even striving to let go of his country. They just told him, you're no longer Greek. And he had a look of like disbelief, like, wow, that one, didn't see that one coming. You're no longer Greek. He was like thinking, what is this? But as soon as he was told, you're no longer Greek, and you have to somehow make amends with something that happened years ago, he was just standing there in disbelief, looked very disoriented, until this blind woman came up to him and said, I feel your presence even though I can't see, and I want to talk to you, and I have something very important to ask you. And wow, you could just see how Jesus was just in his moment of disorientation, when he didn't know what was happening. Then here comes the call for help, and he simply answered the call for help, and that led him to his next step. It wasn't something that was premeditated, it wasn't something he had planned, but it was just something that was given. And I think, to me, that's the way the journey goes. When you're ready, the next step is always given. And it's something that you can take, even though it does involve a letting go. Letting go of something familiar, letting go of something that's once seemed important and suddenly doesn't seem important. So it's almost like gracefully letting go of the concepts that the ego made to take the place of truth in the mind. gracefully letting go. You see, that's why the Holy Spirit is needed. We can't try to do this on a personal basis, because I think most people would freak out if they tried to handle their own awakening. When Jesus himself says in the Course, you cannot wake yourself, but you can allow yourself to be awakened. Don't you love that? Jesus is really saying, step back and let the Spirit lead the way, and it will work. So we always seem to come to that point where we start to say, this is the movement. Now, are we all ready to go with the movement and not try to fight against this beautiful movement, very graceful movement?
Yeah, I can see he didn't really trying to go anywhere himself. It's not like a self-directed saying, in order to serve God, I have to go in there, I have to become this. None of it. And yet the step was given very, very obviously, even though it looks like he had no other way, all the other doors are closed. And seems like he is squeezed out sometimes, but still, you know, if you really see it from the bigger perspective, it's really not a sacrifice, but just that the way is shown to him and made very, very obvious. If you don't interpret in a negative way, as if other choices are better, more choices means better, just in terms of clarity, it was pretty clear where to go, what to do. It was very, very clear. And that is how the spiritual journey feels like if we don't attempt to lead ourselves out of this world. We just allow the Spirit to take care of that. Then that does feel like that. Every step is given very, very obvious, in a very obvious way, and we just say yes to it without giving a big story around it, or you know, make ourselves seemingly a victim, but really no, actually I'm joyfully going that step.
Yeah, and when we come to the idea that there's no order of difficulty in miracles and there's no hierarchy of illusions, then even some of the things that the ego calls sacred, which are these roles that it made up. I mean, all the roles of the world were made up by the ego, and they all have to be let go. And the only role that we have, according to the Course, is the role of forgiveness. And that's to see the false as false. That's how Jesus defines forgiveness. See the false as false. That means see everything the ego made as false, without exception. But you can see that certain things are believed to be more important than others. And I know, Danielle, you've written in about the issues you're going on with in the family, and the guilt you feel, and wanting to loosen from the family and devote yourself more inwardly, and not feeling obligated with family functions and so on and so forth, you know. And yet, to the world, you know, family is one of the illusions that's held so high. It's like when you start to turn away from that, then the guilt comes up pretty quick. But I remember that scene in the movie yesterday, toward the end, when the young nun was there with all the nuns, and then the mother came to reclaim her daughter. Come back, get you back to your husband, and basically the nun said, you know, that you arranged that marriage, and I'm not going back. And wow, I remember the mother said something like, I'll see you in hell. And then a little bit later, you don't know who you're dealing with. Like, hell hath no fury than a mother who seems to have lost her daughter to a convent that's out on an island outside of Greece. You know, she was coming in like the great storm that was going to disrupt everything, because it was almost like, no, my way is the way it's going to be, and you basically have, she was saying to her daughter, no, you have no choice, you must come back with me, come back to the role. And this nun, you know, she was like saying, I'm happy, And that's the thing, when you make your stand and you go for God, you realize how important that is. Francis was saying that today, that at one point you just realized that, wow, I'm here to go for God. And then even a screaming mother on the phone was no match for that passion to know God. Even things from your ex-husband or different things had started to come, and almost like repeatedly in waves, kind of like it came for Nectarius. It just came, but once you make the stand to go for God, you are saying, I'm going to put this as my top priority. And you do see that it's going in a different direction than the world. The world, it was to build a self-concept and polish that self-concept, and basically the ego won't tell you, but it's to die with that self-concept. Build it, polish it, and die with it. and when you don't want to die, when you want to know your creator, you have to unbuild it. You have to go in a direction of its dismantling, of its dissolution, of its fading away, and then finally to a surrender to a being of light that you truly are. And so it seems intense, just like for that woman who had left her husband in that arranged marriage and to go to join the nuns. It was a huge backlash, an ego backlash, that it wasn't just her that felt it, all the nuns felt it, Nectarius felt it. It was like a tidal wave of guilt and shame, and then all the false accusations, and you could just see, wow, the ego will go from suspiciousness to viciousness. But I think we were talking, it's like when you start to go on this journey, the steps are just given you. And it's not like you have to struggle about really whether to take them. You've always told me that it was so obvious at every turn, the step that you needed to take was right there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you had to try to invent something. It was very obvious.
No, not only it's obviously given me, but I also felt it wasn't really my own effort to take it. I felt like the Spirit was carrying me and taking it, and no doubt there are a lot of reflection of doubt thoughts, because it was my own doubt thoughts at the time, the ego's doubt thoughts, let's put it that way, because it's like screaming, don't go that direction, don't go that direction. What would happen? You have no guarantee of the future anymore. And selfishness and all of this guilt started to rise up. But the clarity of the step, and there is also reflections around the clarity there. So it's kind of like a bit like a mix. And in the end, it's more like what we're choosing to go toward, then that carries us through. If I want to have more witness that gonna speak to me from God and from the Spirit, that's what I would choose. I would go steadfast. And then over the year, you see that the doubt thoughts started to fade, not through struggle with it. You know, when Jesus said, resist no evil, it's not like we have a battle with the doubt thoughts. We never really do have a battle with the doubt thoughts. We just go steadfast towards the light. And the doubt thoughts, the less we really give it attention, and the less we don't believe them anymore, because the light is so convincing, and the joy is so convincing, and the light and the doubt thoughts started to lose power. They just fade away when we don't really believe and get hold of them. So that's really the journey. No battle with the evil, no battle with the ego. Just go toward the light.
Yeah. And you start to find, as you become very devoted to say, okay, God, here I come, I'll take any step that you offer me, and I'm not going to hesitate, I'm just going to admit that I need to be undone. All my unbelief in you has to be undone. All my doubt about you has to be undone. All my doubt about myself has to be undone. I need a good mind overhaul. I need to have a good power rinse of all these false concepts. Recently, I think I was on Google, and I think I was searching up the terms Christian mysticism, and I came upon a man who was considered an expert in Christian mysticism and a historian and everything. And one of his quotes was, Christianity cannot be understood except through mysticism. And I laughed because I thought, of course, Christ is a living presence, and the only way you can know Christ is not through a theology, is not through an institution, it's not through a structure. And most everyone has had issues with the church, even Nectarius, what a devoted servant in the church. And then it didn't take long after what happened in Egypt, and then what happened in Greece, and then what happened over on the island, that basically he was left with, Lord, are you speaking to me? It finally came down to the Lord. The ultimate mysticism is just devotion to know God. And that was such a relief when I read it, because I was this famous Christian mystic historian basically saying Christianity can only be understood from mysticism. It can't be understood from what we call everyday Christianity. In fact, I started to think, what does that even mean? I saw an article the other day where somebody said Christianity is failing, Christians are leaving the faith, leaving the flock. And then the question came, what is the future of Christianity? And I just burst out laughing because I thought, I really don't care. I really don't care what the future of Christianity is. I want to know Christ now. That's all I care about. I've become completely disinterested. What do you think of this religion versus that, and comparative religions, and making a synthesis? I'm really not interested, and I'm really seeing that you have to go into Christian mysticism to actually have a connection with God, because the whole definition is devotion. And without devotion, the ego can offer a lot of distractions in this world. If you're not devoted, the ego said, here, I'll give you something to chew on. Give us some bubble gum or a stick of gum that usually is pretty stale after the first 5 minutes of chewing on it. We've all had that experience where we get interested in something and then we get very stale very quickly, because it's really not our purpose for being here. Our purpose is to use, with the Holy Spirit's help, use what the ego made to release ourselves from the ego and release ourselves from the linear world. And you could just say, well, I don't even know what mysticism is, and it's more like, well, just give yourself a moment to just ponder the present moment and imagine, what if there really was never a past or a future, and you just imagined that there was, and then you let your imagination run away with your mind and take it on a very strange, weird journey called time and space. And it's not something that you even have to speak to somebody. That Jesus says, when God reveals the truth to you, when you know the light, it's non-transferable. It's not something that's interpersonal. You don't have to explain it to your children or your parents or your neighbors or your friends. Isn't it great that you don't even have to explain God to your Course in Miracles friends? Isn't that great? It's like you let go of the thought you have to explain anything. And how relaxing that is, where you can just settle into a beautiful, intimate experience, and you don't need to bounce it off of anybody. Wow, I feel so loving. You don't have to go, am I? Do you think I am? You don't have to bounce it off of anyone. You actually have a direct experience of what it is. So, wow, here we are again. We've just watched this very inspiring movie, and we've come together to join together. If there's anything thing that you're curious about, or something isn't fitting for you, or something that you have a lingering doubt thought about, then this is our opportunity to let that doubt thought be lifted up to the light here and reborn in the light of Christ. So I see we actually have a couple hands. Should we go right into our interactions? Oh, there they come. Lots of hands coming. Okay, Dan. Dan up in Everett, Washington. Hi, Dan.
The future of Christianity. I don't have an opinion about that.
Me either. Hey, that's wonderful.
Francis or David, could you just say something about Job? You know, from the Hebrew Bible, that whole section. I guess the movie brought it up about Job's predicament with God.
Is that the one where Job is seemingly asked to make a sacrifice?
Right. God wants him to actually kill his son with a knife.
Well, it's interesting because our friend Andy Pageman was just on Miracle Voices with Tamara Morgan and our friend Matt McCabe, and actually I just listened to that episode, and actually Tamara, who's Judy Scutch's, the publisher of the course, she's the president of the Foundation for Inner Peace now, and she brought up the exact topic that you're talking about on the podcast, saying, that just is ridiculous on the surface. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing. How did that even get in the Bible? That's the most ridiculous thing. And then she said, as she matured and went deeper, she started to see, well, what if everything's symbolic, what is this showing? And she basically mentioned on the podcast that she started to see that when we start to follow God, or the voice for God, we need to be willing to do anything, and obviously on the surface level that cannot be taken literally, because one of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not kill. Those 10 commandments go back a long way, so it must mean that if I'm willing to follow God, and in the following of it, with Job, then he has realizations. His faith grows. His trust expands, and I think that's the way that we can see that parable from the Bible, from the Old Testament, is not in any kind of literal sense, because that makes no sense at all. I think the more I studied the Course, though, the most of the majority of parables I've heard in my life don't make any sense at all. So I'm thinking, well, Job doesn't make any sense, but the things that people used to tell me as I was growing up, I would go to the gym to exercise, and I would see a big sign, no pain, no gain. Mm-hmm. What the hell does that even mean? And Jesus now laughs with me and says, yeah, it is meaningless. Maybe he would repurpose that and say, no joy, no gain. If you don't experience a state of joy, you really aren't gaining, or you really aren't growing towards God, because the Holy Spirit's curriculum is a curriculum of joy. And joy is not about killing anybody, but I think it is about obedience. I think that in a twisted way, that story about Job was trying to say, put God as the top priority and be obedient. And I know for Francis and I, we would not have gone anywhere in this world if we had just kind of tried to memorize the Course. We had to seemingly take a lot of steps that required great obedience, enormous obedience to that inner voice. Even when the inner voice was guiding me many times to something that I first had an initial egoic reaction to, when I was guided even before the course to leave one program in the university and go to another, I had a reaction. My professors had a reaction. My parents had a reaction. My fellow colleagues had a reaction. Everybody had a reaction to what turned out to be the guidance of the Holy Spirit, that I was to shift from one program to another program. And there was a lot of anger that came up, and there was a lot of finger pointing, and all kinds of things came because it was a reaction to what should be so. And the Holy Spirit's guidance is taking us to let go of control of trying to build a better self-concept and let it be unwound. So I know for us, I mean, that's what I take from the story of Job, like Tamara talked about on the podcast, is it's a very much a listen, follow curriculum.
And also, I think maybe the movie yesterday was kind of in a little bit of kind of, oh, why is his life so gloomy? I think with Job, it was, you know, because he's so righteous, and why does God do this to him? It's the major question. And I think part of the story was also his friends came to argue with him, saying, you must have done something wrong to bring this to you. You must have done something wrong. But in the end, the lesson is there is no good and bad in how his life turned out to be. The good things is not because he was blessed by God, and the bad things is not because he's punished. But he, through the whole thing, he has to grow this spiritual maturity to see that it, one way or the other, is his faith that is bring his joy. And I feel like it's with this Nectario as well, yesterday the movie, because it's very easy to say, well, if he has this much faith, then his life should go this way. Who are we to judge what it should go? You know, the thing is, even in the Bible, it says, love not this world, because when you love this world, the love of God will disappear in your heart. So it's like everything is pointing towards our faith to God. It doesn't really matter the good things, so-called good things judged by the ego, or the bad things. Let them all be the same to point us toward God. And that is really, I see the mystics and saints, they can go so much deeper. They don't care being a patriarch. He was offered at some point, it's like, no. But that is the true joy that we're talking about, the joy that is not of this world, and the joy is not based on appearances, but is truly developed through our trust and faith in God. That is, I think, the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a song that I listen to a lot and just as a meditation by Kim Walker, and she's got some lyrics in there about tear down these idols, tear down religion, tear down self-righteousness. I want an encounter, a real encounter. And that line is just, whenever I hear it, here's a woman who's a very devoted Christian singer, Christian woman, who's basically saying, tear it all down. I want an encounter with you more than I want any of that. And certainly, having been raised Christian and gone through the Bible and all of the discussions that people have nowadays, online and offline, about theological discussions and theological distinctions, and a lot of, I still receive actually a lot of metaphysical questions, and I've been speaking and writing about these for 3 decades to clarify things, but still my inbox or my messenger can get filled up with some metaphysical questions. But I think about that word, those words, I want an encounter, a real encounter, that more than anything else, deep down, we want an experience of love. We want to feel loved. We want to feel cared for. We want to feel safe. We want to feel connected. And for me, it's come very, very clear that that's an experience that is available, but I have to be able to put all the concepts on the altar, all the concepts that the ego made. And I like it that Jesus tells us that the only concept that is helpful to us, when he says only concept, I'm paying attention now. Yes, there's only one concept that leads away from all the rest, and that's forgiveness. He says in heaven, forgiveness is unknown, because there is nothing to be forgiven in heaven. But in terms of this dream world, the one concept that's helpful, we could call it the atonement. It's still a concept, but we are required to accept it in order to let go of all the rest. And that movie, I think, really kind of displayed how I don't think there's any point in judging good times, bad times. It's just, wow, it's all directed to, are you speaking to me, Lord? And a smiling face in the end with big eyes, like, oh, hallelujah, oh, glory, everything else doesn't matter in that moment. You know, everything else doesn't matter at all in that moment. It's not worth evaluation, because that moment of connection with the Lord is everything, and whatever seems to be before it fades away instantly into nothingness. So, yeah, I certainly can relate, you know, because when I was reading the Bible, there's certain things that I was just scratching my head. But the Spirit was just saying, like, see the metaphor and see that pick the golden nugget out of this parable and hold on to that nugget. And that's kind of the way I've had to go through my life, yeah. So thank you, Dan. Beautiful. And Aline. Hi there.
Hi. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hello, Francis. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Yes, I don't have questions. I followed you for 4 years already, reading A Course in Miracles, doing the lessons. And I just want to say I'm so very grateful for it all. And when I start a retreat, and then I have some questions, and I think, oh, yes, this time I will raise my hand. And then there are other people, and they have the questions I have. So I get all the answers. But now I want to tell I want to tell everybody how grateful I am for the community, for all the people. A half year ago or so, I had a question: where is Kenneth? Because I followed him, and I didn't know where he was. And I thought he had some contacts with Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was, for 50 years, one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I thought, oh, good gracious, he is gone. And now he's one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But I read a letter, and there was told me that he came to Holland, and we made an appointment, and I saw him with Anna, and it was a great day. So I got my answer. I got my miracle. I know where Kenneth is. That made me very happy. And I listened the Friday evening. I didn't listen to it when it was 2 o'clock in the night in Holland. So I listened Saturday morning. And then I heard about the film The Chosen One. And that was so beautiful. Kirsten and Greg, they showed some pieces of the film. And it spoke to my heart so very much, the love of Christ, how he wants to get us back and know we're worth it. So that was wonderful. And he read a line: what would you fear when you knew that every step was planned by the one who loved you? And that was so beautiful. That touched my heart so much. So that was all. I'm very nervous, but that was what I want to say. And
Oh,
thank you for everything you do. Thank you,
oh,
Sing.
thank you. Thank you. What a blessing. What a blessing. Yeah, Kenneth is actually coming in the beginning of the year down here to Mexico with Anna. So we'll just stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. Where in the world is Kenneth? It's a beautiful parable of joy. Thank you. Okay, and Maria Solomon. Yes.
Hello. Hi, David. Hi, Francis.
Hi.
My first retreat with you all
Yes.
has been wonderful. Reborn in the light of Christ. I cannot want more than that. And you know, the movie and the commentary, it encapsulates everything that we need to know. It encapsulates the course, the teachings of Jesus. I mean, if I can practice and live all that, then that would be, my path would be so much easier. But there is a lot undone, and I'm still on the process. But it's been wonderful with it's a Friday evening with Kirsten, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the gentleman that was with her. I'm so new with this.
Yes, it was Greg.
Yeah, and so it was beautiful, and showing the clips on the chosen series and all that. It has been very beautiful. If I were to watch this movie many years ago, I would be judging just looking at the suffering only, suffering and suffering. But we know that it's not true, and we know that we don't know what was going through Nectario's mind, and I'm pretty sure that it was just the undoing of the mind. It's just like when the story of Jesus, nobody could see what was going on with the undoing, and so the atonement principle, and so Jesus made miracles, so we could believe, and sometimes, in my journey, I've seen a lot of miracles all through it, and a lot undone. But I have a question about you mentioned the unconscious, because sometimes I feel like I have let go of a lot, and I, like last night, I was just I have this urge to go and be with Jesus, like I often do, and the ego comes with all these thoughts that I don't know where they come from. It's just like over and over, and thoughts about death, murder, sickness, guilt, separation, and sometimes it's really hard. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I mean, obviously, I'm still in the process, and I'm still undoing a lot. So if you can talk about the unconscious, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to being more with you and with the village, and maybe, I don't know where Jesus is taking this, but I'm really excited and so grateful, and thank you so much.
Ah, beautiful, Maria. Well, the part of the mind that is pushed out of awareness is often called the unconscious, and in that self-concept versus self section, I read parts from yesterday. Basically, it's there in chapter 31 and in this section number 5, where Jesus describes the self-concept as having two tiers. It's two parts. One is the dream that you gave away, meaning the world that seems to happen to you apart from your choice or your will. And then the second part is the part underneath, that the face of innocence, the the top layer of the self-concept, the personality self and world, was made as a cover over this dark part of the mind that's been denied. And when I say denied, that means like that's why you say, I don't know what it is. No one does. It actually can't be known. You can't really define something that's an illusion, but Jesus is saying, if you'll just allow it to come up and you'll give those thoughts over to me, then the Holy Spirit will take them from you and you will heal your mind. But at one point of the dictations, Jesus did call this lower part, he called it the unwatched mind. So his whole course is mind training and mind watching, and the unwatched mind is what's been pushed out of awareness. Even in the Bible, when Jesus would go off to pray by himself, he would say things to the apostles like, while I'm gone, please keep watch. He would repeat, keep watch, over and over, and say, keep your lanterns lit. He was basically encouraging 2,000 years ago to allow the darkness up and then to give it over in prayer to the Holy Spirit to be released. So, yeah, there's no real definition for this, but this is, it's just what psychologists, like for example, Carl Jung would call this unconscious mind, he calls it the shadow. And so different people have different names for it. If you read about it historically, in certain spiritual disciplines, or in psychology, it's the unconscious mind. And that's why things seem to happen that seem very dark, but it's really just the darkness coming up to be released. So that's what's going on. That's the process that's going on in the mind for healing. So I'm glad you're with us. Well, I'm glad we can let this process happen together and feel the joy of being together in this journey. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Beautiful. And I see Delissa from Belgium. Hi there, Delissa.
I'll access full screen because I'm a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. Well, first, I didn't really want to speak because I was like, you're only here to listen. But after the movie, I don't really have a question, but just more something to share because I'm so confused. I mean, after the movie, I didn't see it like, oh, look at all those guidance and all this beauty. I just saw confusion and being lost and pain. Maybe because of what I feel now, it's more like, well, if people like the people know from like the previous retreat that I did, that I was thinking of maybe doing a trip, and then it was like spirit telling me to do the trip, and I didn't plan anything, and there was one thing that was like would have been really nice that was supposed to happen, and it didn't happen, and it got delayed every day and day again, and then I never met the person, and I never met Course in Miracles students, and then I went back home, and it was basically a waste of time, and it really made me sad. And then after that was like this weekend, things happened that made me really question myself, because it's like I can't make decisions, and it was like every time I fuck up in a way, and I want guidance, but then I feel like I don't get it, and then it's like I'm fucking it up, and it's more just like I have 5 lessons left, and then it's done, the course, but I don't feel anything, and I just feel so lost and so unsafe. Like I'm constantly scared, like I constantly like thinking bad things will happen, and that spirit doesn't have my back, or that spirit has my back, but for some reason I will find a way to ruin it, basically. And then there was something else that I was holding on to, also from a trip, that I was still holding on to, connection that was obviously giving me more pain than happiness. But it was like I was thinking like it's like a big poop and it has little sprinkles on it, and I was holding on to these sprinkles so much because I only get these little sprinkles and never like nice happy things. And then spirit say just delete the conversation and delete everything, or maybe it was my ego saying label and dismiss. So I did it, and it felt so painful because it was like as if the memory was completely gone, and these little sprinkles that made me happy were also gone, and it feels so painful because like everybody here is happy and it's such a joyous journey, and I'm so grateful for everything, but my journey hasn't been like that, and no happiness. In the past year I've been sitting here at home, and I don't feel steps that are like obvious, and I'm just sitting here basically hating myself, being so down. And now I'm have to go to a new psychiatrist next week, and to say it in like matrix terms, it's like I want him to like make me barf up the red pill and give me the blue pill, make me a robot. I'm even thinking about getting a job. I told my dad said it to me, like you can't go on like this anymore, just sitting there waiting. And I was like, I know. And then I told him like I'm just going to suck it up, get a job, and sit at home the whole time working and never meeting people. And I said like I will lose my smile forever, but this is what it is, because I just don't see the hope. Like everybody here, it feels happy, but I don't. And now it's like I don't want to live with myself anymore. I can't live with this person, but yet I still can, because if I wouldn't be able to live with me anymore, it would disappear. But yeah, I don't feel any guidance. It is there, but I don't see it. And I feel like I've been left out. And like you just said, like, oh, the journey is joyous. And if it's not joyous, it's supposed to be like that. You should get it step by step. But I don't know what to do. And it's been such a hard week for me. And all I've been doing is crying and feeling that, yeah, I'm not entitled to miracles, or it doesn't work for me. And it's like, I just wish that I wouldn't feel so lost and so scared, because it's kind of what I do. And at this point, I sometimes I feel that this course is not for me, because yeah, nothing really works. I don't know, like everybody here is so happy and joyous, and I'm not. And then after seeing the movie, it was like I would not be able to deal with that, with all that negativity and all that hate. I would just crawl in a corner and be like, and then it's like, is this what the journey will be, just like in the movie? Because I can deal with it, and this was just what I wanted to share with people, because I'm just lost, and I just wanted to tell somebody, because yeah, I don't know, just wanted to share it. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Delissa, for sharing that. It's like we can all just hold you so much in our prayers. And I'm thinking of people like, for example, like Norman Cousins. He actually was going along in his life, and then he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And what he did was he just intuitively felt that he would have to start with something that was inspirational, something that would bring him a smile on his face, because he was initially devastated by being told of this diagnosis. And so his idea was, he said, I'm just going to watch comedy movies. He just watched comedy movies and episodes, and he just watched them for weeks and weeks and weeks until he felt this heaviness in his life, this pressure start to lift. Because I think with our thoughts, when we kind of get into a loop with them, then it can seem very dark and very dismal and depressing. But if you can find one thing that inspires you, and then you can just allow yourself to be flooded with that. Just make the choice, like Norman Cousins did. He basically was able to watch so many comedies and comedy episodes that he actually went into remission, and his terminal illness disappeared. And that was always very inspiring to me, because it wasn't like he had a program in mind or something that was designed necessarily to train his mind in a systematic way, but he just felt that to laugh was the direction that he wanted to go towards sanity, towards feeling sane. So I know that, we've talked a number of times, and I know that it can be like, it starts to go like a spiral when you start to have negativity and you have hesitation and you start to doubt your own power of choice. But yeah, I just want you to just remember people like Norman Cousins, who basically, said, I have a choice here and this is what I'm going to choose to do. And he took that step as an empowerment step, to move in the direction he wanted to go. And there have been people who have written books about being in concentration camps and deciding that they can see the world in a different way, and that nobody could take away their power of choice. So that might be just the one thing right now to focus on. Just instead of saying, I can't make choices, just say, I have the ability to choose. And just start with that one thought, that one recognition, and from there, I think it can open up. It gives it the possibility to choose differently. Yeah. So thank you. Our prayers are with you. Thank you for coming on camera and sharing with everyone. Yeah, we love you. Okay. Terry.
Good morning.
Hi.
Just thinking about Delissa. Yeah, when I found the course, I couldn't believe that Jesus wrote a book. And I remember thinking it's like a treasure hunt to find Jesus, and I don't know. But he's had me on the run. That movie, Victorious, between him and Lesson 189 last night, and the Purpose is the Only Choice, Thursday, Wednesday, I just went, oh my goodness. I had a realization of the circular car I was in, and stepped out, and then through stillness, I found the present moment again, and I heard rise. And then last night I said, drop the I and rise. It felt like it came in a realization. And then I remembered Thursday or Wednesday, I heard titles of songs in my mind, like I Wear My Sunglasses at Night, Corey Hart, and the Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Right to Party. And Jesus was down with it. Even Elvis, what was the name of that? I got it written there. There it is. All shook up. I'm all shook up. And because that's all of the things I felt. And I didn't look up any of the words. I just listened to the song, and enjoyed them. I was, I still like to do that. Just shake my head like it rearranges everything. But boy, this morning he had me on the run, and I got to share this, okay? Last night I was listening. I love the beat of the I wear my sunglasses at night, and I can't sing. And I thought, wonder what the words are. I never looked up the words to that. I thought about it last night, and this morning I got up and looked up the words. Oh my goodness. And all of a sudden I remembered Billy brought home this bag from work. He said, they gave us this at work and I don't want it. You want it? I said, sure. And I opened it up and it had 4 pairs of sunglasses in. And I remembered that this morning, the sunglasses. And I took them to the car, and then I tried to find somewhere to put them, and there was all these other sunglasses in there. I didn't know I had so many. I had 8 pairs of sunglasses in the car. But I looked up the words, and oh my goodness, it was Jesus. He's so much inspiration and joy, but the holiness, the number 189, see the holiness in your brother, to find it in yourself. It's like a treasure hunt, because I've been practicing that, and it said that that's what the only thing the world is for, to see the holiness in your brother. And it said more than that, but I remember that if you could just do that, you can find some semblance of it in yourself, I think. Because the holiness in me is when I realized something that I'd looked over, just like the sunglasses, but the song came up and I didn't put, but it just all, and it caused me so much joy this morning, singing with that song and reading the words, what it said to me. The words, it says, what does it say? First, he goes through it and he says, it's like he's talking to his other self. And he said, page 1, yeah, it was, he wears them, so he could watch. He put his sunglasses on. I did it with Billy. I put the sunglasses on and I was him, and then I took it off for the other stuff. We had fun, but so he could watch you breathe your lies, and then he put his sunglasses back on. And he said, but I wear my sunglasses at night so I can keep track of the visions in my eyes. And then he said, don't switch the blade on the guy in the shades. Oh no, it's really good. And he said, he wears his sunglasses at night so he can forget my name while you collect your claim. And the light, the sunglasses, he wears his sunglasses at night so he can see the light that's right before his eyes. It's beautiful. And I've been on the run all morning. I had Billy dancing. We were on the run, and joy is there. It's there. And I'm so happy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing the happiness. I think that's the first time anybody's quoted the Beastie Boys to us here on the retreat. But there's always a first. We do hundreds of retreats, and the Beastie Boys are bound to get in there. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Terry. Okay, well, we were talking to people. I see Jonathan Stein up there. We haven't heard from Jonathan for a while. Let's hear. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, David. Hi, Francis. Coming to you with a question. I'm just so appreciating everything that everybody's sharing here. And the movie last night was really amazing for me. I was just so touched by it. And wait a minute, I just have to change the view here. There we go. Yeah, Nectarius was just this beautiful example of such incredible devotion to God. And my story at the moment is that, so I work, and I'm going to keep it really brief just to give a sort of overview here, but like I've been studying the course for a little over 4 years, just like have dove into it. It's just like consumed my life and I love it. And I've been seeing shifts and changes in the way I live and see my life. And it's wonderful. I work as a therapist, a transpersonal therapist, thank God. So it really fits into my work a lot. But I'm kind of feeling more and more like I'm living a double life. Like in my work and in my relationships with people, I feel like I'm constantly doing this bridging thing. Like it's like trying to really understand the course from a psychological perspective. So when I'm working with my clients, I'm bridging a lot. I'm not talking about God. I'm not talking about Jesus, I'm talking about wholeness and oneness and whatever ways I can find to bridge it. But there's this shame or this embarrassment that I have that I feel is holding me back. It's like I feel a growing urge to want to like sort of shout from the rooftops, the love of God, I want to talk to my clients about it. I want to talk to my friends about it, but I'm living this weird experience where, when my friends come over to my house, I hide all my Jesus pictures and, anything relating to the course. And I'm like, I can't, it's like, I'm ready to burst and I don't know how to make this transition to like, I feel like I'm trying to come out of the closet in some way, but I'm terrified that like, if I do, my practice is going to crash and people are going to run in the other direction. I live in a very kind of progressive area of the state. And there's just a sense that I'm perceiving anyways, that like most of the people here are just like, Buddhism's cool, but Christianity or Jesus isn't kind of thing. And I know this is all stuff that I'm carrying, but I don't know, maybe there's a way that you could speak to that transition, getting through this shame, getting through this fear, so that I can just really come out and like give my message without having to filter it and bridge all the time. It's just becoming painful because I'm seeing it so clearly,
Yeah, that's beautiful, Jonathan. I do feel like that fits in with our steps of guidance and trust and opening. I know, like Bill Thetford and Helen Schuckman, who gave us the course from Jesus. They were research psychologists, but little by little, they would look into a little Christian Science. They'd look into some past life regression. They're going down to Edgar Cayce Institute in Virginia Beach to meet with his son, who was living at the time, Hewlin Cayce. They went to see, I think it's Joanne Kuhlman, the healer. They felt all this energy in the room when she was up there sharing from her heart, and people were getting healed, and they were like, "Ooh, feel this energy." There are therapists like Patty's here on with us now. We've known a number of therapists who oftentimes will come. Kenneth, where the woman was just saying, "Where is Ken?" Ken was a therapist in England. And he heard about some retreats that we were putting on a number of years ago, and I think I remember Ken went to this retreat in Finland that Jenny was putting on. I think Jenny and Greg at the time, and had these. It was very north with the northern lights. Kind of, it was very dark even during most of the days, but there was a big breakthrough. So oftentimes people are feeling like a little bit like they've got a double life going on, and what has served them well, I think even you sharing about wholeness and using the bridge metaphors is very appropriate actually for what you're doing with transpersonal therapy. But there's a part that yearns to just burst open. I mean, just completely burst open, to lose control. Like that Pointer Sisters song, "I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it. You know, there's something inside of us that it's ready for some big love, big experience. And I know for Ken told me that, yeah, it was going to some retreats. This was actually quite a lengthy retreat. I don't know, was it like
21 days.
21 days or something like that. And it just was the right conditions for some major breakthroughs. And I feel like where Nectarius was showing us kind of like how he was kind of moved along by the Spirit, I think I have met so many people that start off as therapists and then they have this yearning for some bigger, more vast experience. They're really ready to break out, like out of their double life. And then they tell me how they went to this retreat and it happened. And then from that place, when it happens, then the next thing that will expand them happens. And then the next thing, like a domino effect. Like it can be a retreat sometimes where you're out of your element and out of what seems to be the familiar, that the mind is given permission for something like a big wow kind of experience. And that's kind of what the feeling I'm getting with you is that I think what we've experienced, that you came to, you said it was like a Nusa Bay or a Nusa retreat 1 week, and that's when you had the big wow. But that was your case. In your case too, she was teaching the course down in Sydney, but it was actually the retreat that it was very impactful.
Yeah, it seems like I had a course group, but it seems like even the course group was used by Jesus to point toward the retreat and David, because everybody in the course group was like, do you know about this David Hofmeister from the United States? And then that retreat was, I walk away from that retreat just saying, you know, I know God's love is true now for the first time in my own experience. And then without really knowing what's gonna unfold from that point, but it started to roll, the ball started to roll on its own. But it's that kind of experience that feels like an initiation or something.
Sorry, yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. It feels like an initiation. And there, you know, there's this way, like in the movie last night, it was just shown so many times how, you know, the next step was given to Nectarius. And I have this, I'm like, oh no, am I like missing that next step or something, because I'm so scared to open up. And I'm like, what do I have to get through the fear first, or how do I listen to this next expansion? There's definitely a part of me, you guys are speaking so clearly to my experience. It's really beautiful. And as a therapist, I'm like, I'm feeling a little boxed in, and I'm like, what's the next step here? What's if I'm really listening? And I guess I'm in that place right now. Like something feels like it needs to shift at some point, because I'm stifling myself. But there's, I don't know, Francis, if this is speaking to what you were saying, it's like really getting the love of God at some level so deeply and trusting it so deeply that I can walk through this fear. Yeah. So I don't know, just wanting to just express that, and it feels pretty big for me right now. I'm really sitting with like, what's next? How do I move forward?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm glad it's just come to a head for you, because that's when that song I listened to, I was mentioning earlier, you know, I want an encounter, a real encounter, and then it's followed with, I say yes to your love, yes to you, Jesus. It's almost like we can't find the solution individually ourselves, but something in our heart wants to just light up and say, yes, show me something, make it obvious. And I've heard so many miracle stories where people, you know, see something, they sometimes tell us, they see something in the computer or some message or some sign, and then they just smile and go, okay, whoa, that's a leap. And I think that's come into my awareness for me to pay attention. And I think, I know for myself, I had so many of those, and so many people we know that once they take this little nudge or this prompt, they pray for a sign or a symbol, and then something comes, and then when they go for it, it just sends them in a whole new direction. The doors just start to open much more quickly. And our old way was more just analyzing. We're like analyzing and looking and trying to weigh the pros and the cons, and do I have the time? Do I have the money? Do this? And this is more of a sign that just gets your attention and comes very obviously in. So that's beautiful. We'll just thank you for sharing that. We'll hold you in our thoughts and prayers for that, because I can feel that's what you're praying for, you're calling for in such a deep way. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
We love you. Beautiful. Okay.
Wow.
Who do you feel next?
Well, what about Andrea? She hasn't spoken in the retreat.
Yes, Andrea, you wrote in your question and your situation about how you feel not getting the reflections of this love and acceptance at work for yourself. I think you were saying.
Hi.
Hi
Hi,
there.
everyone. Hi, David. Hi, Francis. Yeah, I felt inspired to raise my hand after Jonathan. A couple of things. So I also work as a therapist, and I feel so burdened. Like I just feel like I just notice when I feel like it's up to me, I'm just filled with anxiety. And then even when I have like what I perceive just like as sessions with my clients that they give feedback that it's helpful or there's a feeling of flow, it feels like the ego comes in and just starts to pick everything apart and just pulls me down into some darkness. So I just feel like David, something you said before the movie, you said with the first theme, which was trust that all is taken care of, you said your need for learning ends. And I can just feel like such a desire to not be in charge anymore. And this like sense of like that a lot of my movement towards learning is coming from the ego and this place of like that I need to know something, that it's up to me. And it's just like taking a lot of the pleasure, if not all of the pleasure out of my life. And it's like if I believe that like I'm in these connections with these people because, there's a purpose between us, I just want to be able to relax and trust, and stop feeling like it's up to me. So I guess what my question is like I need like something procedural almost, like when my mind is so caught and there's so much anxiety, I keep trying like a million ways to try to pop out of it. And it's a very deep trance for me, that place. So like Francis, you said, we don't battle with the ego, with the doubt thoughts. We just go towards the light. Like maybe you could just say like how, like how in that moment, because I feel like even in the like moving to try to move towards spirit, I'm still in charge. I still feel like I'm trying to be my own teacher. And it's not working. So my prayer is just for like, just to be taken. I just want to be taken.
Yeah, I think what's coming to me is a line from the text that helped me so much. And it's when Jesus says, you are not responsible for the error, but you are responsible for accepting the correction for the error. And when I see that, I kind of get this image like I've been sharing recently of like the cross, where the horizontal axis is the linear time axis, where all the analytical thinking is, where all the responsibilities of a therapist, responsible for the clients, responsible for your life, heavy, heavy, heavy. That part of the cross, the horizontal axis, is the error, because Jesus is telling us time is not linear. Your core belief that time is past, present, and future is made up by the ego, and then Jesus says that the ego tries to force continuity on this construct, tries to force continuity between the past and the future and the present moment. Well, the only problem is the past was invented by the ego, the future was invented by the ego, and that little blip in between the past and the future, that was invented by the ego, because the true present is before time was, like Jesus taught, before Abraham was, I am. So the present moment isn't in between the past and the future. Wow, that's deep. I mean, that's, talk about, accepting the world and then trying to react and respond to this insane timeline. And I think I've worked with people actually for years and years in spirituality, and I would say one of the things that haunts them and brings the most anxiety and fear and guilt and worry is just the concept of responsibility. And what Jesus showed me at some point was, he said, remember, you're not responsible for the error, which is the horizontal. You're responsible for accepting the correction, which is the vertical. And that helped me, because all my stress and anxiety was coming, I could see from my investment, my addiction to all these timeline concepts, including the concept of myself, of course, the image that the ego made, and then all the rest. And you're feeling it in relation to your work as a therapist with the clients. But many people, like Danielle was feeling it in terms of her family. That's another example of it. Jonathan was feeling it in terms of like with his job as even as a transpersonal therapist, feeling he was like living a double life. Like there's something even beyond being a transpersonal therapist, and I want that burst. I want that aha. I want that. That's what you're asking for. So if you think of it in terms of the cross, you've got to make a commitment to a fundamental shift to thinking in a vertical way, which means what is most helpful for me right now. That's extremely important, not down, it's not at the bottom of the priority list, like after I handle all these jobs and these clients and everything else, then I'll get to the last thing on my list. But we need to start to put that connection with, starting with, okay, I don't like how I feel, basically starting there. And then really taking the prayer into the vertical, like take hold of me, God, take hold of me, lift me. We're now the rise term, we're rise, arise. We show the Jesus movie, and Lisa was like, I like the way that Jesus said, rise, like at the tomb with Lazarus, rise. There's a certainty, there's a force behind it. And I really think it's to come back to this vertical, go vertical. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I know that, it's such an extension mode when you work with the client. And when we extend, it's always like our mind is filled up. And then when you stop, then all this ego backlash comes in. You didn't do a good job, and I find it very, very helpful just to really orient my mind to continue this extension. Do not put it compartmentalized, or this is, I'm extending with my work, then I go home and then I start analyze what I did right or what I did wrong. But it's like, it becomes like a continuation of wherever I go, it's extension. And then also feels like we also just really want to set the goal up front. You know, we're not here to see our work, but we're here to see the work of Christ every day. And with that prayer very, very strong in my mind, I walk into the day to see the work of the Christ. It has nothing to do this, you know, whatever the outcome is, that's my anchor point, to see the Christ of the work of the Christ. And then you just really orient your mind in, this is it's between you and God. It's really not between the patients or anything. It's between you and God. It's all about you and God. And yeah, that feels very stabilizing. I know in my own journey, very stabilizing.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, that's beautiful, because I feel like that gets to the core of the whole theme of the retreat. Reborn in the light of Christ. We've been used to thinking in such personal timeline terms, and then we get frustrated. It can almost be a panic, like feeling like this anxiety goes up, and then it's like, uh-oh, there's no way out. Kind of a feeling like whatever I'm trying is not working, and then there's a fear that comes with that. So I think that every time I would ask myself, you know, about, you said, what is the how? I would always hear back, the how is the Holy Spirit. So you see, even that is different from the timeline. What technique do I do? What action do I take? And it's like, no, the how is just pausing, stopping, and connecting, and saying this, like Francis said, this is for God. This is not for a person to try to figure their way out of the quicksand. This is about a prayer to God, to say, you know, I need your guidance, I need your intercession. So thank you. That's just so much for everyone, you know, what you've just shared. Well, I think, let's see, Lisa, Lisa's kind of new to us, so we would love to hear more from you.
Hi again. I just have a really sweet little synchronicity for you. I was out last night going to a concert, driving in the dark. I wasn't driving, my husband was driving. And we drove by a church that I never even saw before. And it was called Vertical Church. I thought that was just perfect. And I don't know, that just really, I've never really heard it in those terms you've used, horizontal and vertical and the cross. I just love it. And so when I saw that, I thought, well, I'm just going to start going to Vertical Church in my meditations and my every moment, right? We can just go to Vertical Church.
Go vertical.
I just thought that was an unusual name for a church. So I thought, well, that's the Holy Spirit giving me a reminder. So thank you so much for everything that you shared in the movie. I so enjoyed the movie. Wow, it just continues to sit with me of remembering to just keep letting go and keep having the faith and giving it all to God, even when it seems really tough. We've all been through those really tough places, and it's just a start again, give it to God, give it to the Holy Spirit. And I also really enjoyed your comment today about that we need to bring our illusions to the truth versus the other way around. That was really, really helpful too. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Okay, what do you feel now?
What about Tamara?
Good evening.
Hi,
Blessings
Tamara.
to everybody. Yeah, I really resonated with Jonathan and what also Andrea mentioned. The only difference that it seems I'm starting to enjoy being the bridge about my situation. So I have been in science for really very long time, and for last year I stopped my research. I'm closing my lab in the next weeks, and yeah, Ego just responded back, and I got some requests about teachings or giving an exams for the students, and I replied to some professors that no, I cannot do this job, and I cannot do this and that, and then I was asked why. Yeah, because I want to leave academia, and I'm opening myself for something else, and then I got an answer, a question. I wanted to read it. It's just one sentence. Dear Tamara, what happened? How can you, such a dedicated and talented scientist by vocation, here's my pride, my self-concept I need to build up. How can you, dedicated scientist by vocation, leave science? It's so sad. Or did you find something else giving you a more fun or a better sense of a life? And I was sitting there thinking, and this kind of emails or direct questions I'm getting quite often, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what should I write? And this professor, this guy, I respect him so much, and he's kind of my friend or my old friend, and yeah, I had really difficulties to write what is it else. Probably he himself is looking to find too. He's a very respected director of a big institute, and I always felt that he's searching by himself, like I was searching, and now it seems I found something which is better. Yeah, so this is where I'm right now, where I'm need to find courage and to speak what is this else I found. And yeah, I tried to dance on the eggs, like while answering to him. I couldn't mention God because what still, like, the world, this 3D thinks that believing in God or asking God for help, it's like a weakness. If you are not good enough, then you can go to God. So this is actually my question. I think also in the movie yesterday, there was a moment when the mother was telling to her daughter, yeah, this is the place for all the people who fail in life. And yeah, so how to say to myself or to people who ask me that God is strength and not a weakness? How have you experienced this communicating with people? Because most of them, like, they think this is not a strength, but it's my weakness. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because it's like you have this bright, bursting spirit in you that's coming out now, and it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to share. And I can hear all the saints around you. Gandhi saying, be the change you want to find, and then I'm hearing, be the bridge that you want to cross. And since your friend is a director, and he's into science like you, religious terms are not the thing. You can say, be the quantum field you want to find, and then you can quote Rumi, a poet. There is a field, my dear beloved friend. I'll meet you there. You see, you can use the words that really are in your heart, which is connection and love and openness. And depending on who you're speaking to, you can, the words can just come where they'll feel, oh, there's a connection here. I was reaching out, and yeah, Tamara's connecting with me. She feels it. Like you said, he's been searching like you have, and you're starting to find, and he wants to find, and you want to share the glee of, I don't know exactly what it is, but in my best words, here it is, you know. I think too, sometimes there was a man that I did a talk with, Derek Brose and his wife Melia, and I think he was just sending me a voicemail last night, and I could just hear it in his voice. David, I want to connect with you. I want to talk about the monastery. And so he's one that I feel was just reaching out, that I feel to call back and just have a heart-to-heart joining. Sometimes you can't even do it through a text or an email. Sometimes it's just a call to have a call and to feel the love in your heart that wants to come through, and then just with a call, it can come through. You know, people can hear it in your tone of voice. They can hear it in more ways than just the words alone, that you're onto something now. And your friend, the director, he wants to know what you're onto. So yeah, see if you're muted or not.
I have just as an add-on a joke, an interaction with another professor I had, and it was so funny, and I want to share with you to laugh a little bit. I was again kind of not sure what to reply, and I say, yeah, by the way, I started to teaching yoga at the university, and I'm having such a fun, and students are giving me applause, and I usually do my lessons like with the Course in Miracle lessons. And yoga applied to that. And I say, yeah, I enjoy this really, and I like this. And with this professor, I don't have friendship, so I keep it short. And he replied, this is amazing. I have been for 30 years at university, and I got applause only once in my life. And that was when I mentioned that the content I'm teaching is so boring to myself.
That's good.
That's real.
Yeah, that's a real.
The heart.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have 4 more hands.
Tanya's our saint in training over there. She's leaning and teetering on the and the cat. I didn't see that. That's the star of the show.
Yeah, he's always with me when I'm here, and he's constantly reminding me to not be angry or anxious or dwell in sickness and pain and suffering. He's always like looking and coming and wanting to be pet. And when I'm able to give, I forget that I did not get.
That's it. That's a key to life right there.
It's a very he's kind of resistant, you know. He's not easy to chase away. He's like, no. Now. No.
Persistent.
Well, I wanted to share the miracle that happened to me this morning. It was so intense. I wake up at the moment like with a lot of anxiety and a lot of thoughts. You could call it a depression if you would put a clinical term to it. And what I do is I go into prayer every morning. And at the moment, this morning I was checking the film music from the movie last night. And I found the Kyrie eleison. And I was just listening to this music, and I listened to another music from Russia. It was like a choral, and it's from Christmas, and all of a sudden I was like shaking, and I was like, I cannot describe it. It was like everything was electricity, and I was just like, it was so much joy and so much light and everything. I felt I would explode or burst. And it's what I believe what happened is when you are really I had the thought this morning that all that is required is a little willingness, and this I want to give. And what I can do is, when I don't really feel good and all this darkness is coming in, I can listen to music, or I can sing, and I sing with the whole heart. And I was checking on, because he was saying yesterday in the movie, God, Lord, Kyrie eleison means something like, Lord, have mercy, have mercy. And I had that thought, it's not just a plea. God never condemned me in the first place. So it's just that I have to be lifted off this burden, this block. And then I'm right there where I have always been. It's not the other way around. And if you are like I was so ready that this was so physical. I was shaking so much, like I had a epilepsy or stuff like that. But it was not scary at all. It felt like ecstasy. And I mean, I read about stuff like that, and I saw it in movies that saints and mystics have experiences like that. But I mean, I don't know. What I can say is that it just makes me cry to see Nectarios meek and humble, and the tears were coming down just because I had the desire to be so meek and so humble like he is, and I could feel this peace this man was having in his heart, and I don't know, it just came over me, and it was so huge, that feeling inside, that love, and yeah, that's what happened to me this morning after singing Kyrie eleison. And I always thought, I grew up Catholic, and I always thought it's a plea, and it's like, I did something wrong, please forgive me. And it's not like that, not at all. Not at all.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Tanya. That turns things around in the proper perspective, and turns it to gratitude, so much gratitude. And I'm happy to see that whole thing and the music put a smile on your face, and that's the way you want to start a day. I was tuning in to looking at Facebook this morning, and I don't know if we can see it. Jean, remember Jean yesterday was playing with her long hair? That put a big smile on my face today. I watched Jean with her son, 16-year-old son, cutting. There she is. Jean, you cut your hair, and that was so sweet because we were talking. You were just getting geared up to do it, but then you did it. So maybe you can just share what you experienced during the process and afterwards.
I was reborn. It was a very strange experience, not at all what I expected, which, there you go. I never made a decision to do it. I mean, I didn't say, okay, am I going to do this or not? It just sort of happened. And then my son just sort of joined in, and we were just getting happier and happier. And there were a couple of points where it's like, okay, now it's just short hair. I could stop. And it was like, my hand was just like, whoop, nope, okay, can't stop now. And it was just like, it was just joyful. And when it was done, I just felt like it was nothing. Like the hair just didn't matter at all. It was just that feeling of trust that I finally felt that led me to do it. Was just like, I want to let go. I just want to let go of this person I think I am. And this is something that I can see that I'm holding on to. And I can see it takes a lot of maintenance, a lot of pain. So I'm just so ready to let go. So I know it's just form, but I don't care. Just, I want to let go. And there was just this like feeling of trust, like, yeah, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. The hair doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This feeling that matters. And it's almost like I had to do something with that feeling, and that just moved my hand, just zoop. And I was expecting fear, pain, embarrassment. I was expecting so much negative response that I'm amazed. I felt none of that. It just felt good. And oh yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like. I don't know. I don't care. It wasn't about the hair at all. And I just kept in mind what you said about, don't do the form first to try and get the mind to switch. It was like, no, it's this feeling. Like I told Anna and Ken when they were here that about this thought that had come to me to do it, and that I basically said, I'm not doing it unless like it is so obvious and it's like so joyful. And I was like, and that's it. I'm not thinking about it again. And then it came up again during this movie where I was just feeling the trust coming in, so it just felt right. And so it was perfect. I mean, it was a miracle, and it had nothing to do with the hair, but I mean, Spirit knows what little beliefs I've got going on, and knew that this one was a good one for me, that the hair meant a lot, really was a lot to me. And then I realized it was nothing to me, which was just such a gift. And I let go of so much with that, so much that I was scared of about like appearances and think just gone. So it's very peaceful. And
Thank you. This to me, it's like, it's something to have in your mind, but then when you take action and you feel the release, I think that's just a symbol of how the journey goes. We have Father Richard Rohr that we sometimes receive some of his emails and so forth, and it's the Center for Contemplation and action. And when they asked him about the name, what's the most important part, he said, well, it's the end. It's including both the contemplation and the action. So you got that prompt, and you've had that prompt for a while, of cut it off. And then when you went in and did the action, to me, this is like the listen, follow that ignites the miracles. And it wasn't too long ago, I did had a nice conversation with Joni, who was like had been in the course for 28 years, and then she started getting these little inner nudges and prompts, and she followed them, and whoa, she feels like it just, everything opened up, more of a direct experience of God's love. So I don't think that's a small thing at all. You came on and you told us that you had heard that, but then I just had the biggest smile on my face when I saw the video on Facebook of your son there, and you gave a little context too in the comments below, which was really insightful. I think that's how you kind of take it much deeper. You follow the prompt, and then you get more and more insights of like, oh my gosh, what was I sitting on here that needs to be up and out, that needs to be cleared, that needs to be lopped off. what beliefs that I'm holding on to need to be lopped off. So I'm so grateful that you took the action that you felt, and came on to share it here with us. Definitely put a smile on my face this morning.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Okay. Well, I think Wesley and Angie, we heard from Angie yesterday. It was very powerful.
Hi,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm gonna try ask you in English because I don't have the other dispositive connecting here for translation. And yeah, my question is something hard for me that discernment really? How be truly helpful and compassion and lovely and true empathy, but in the same time, no compromise with my mind and with my healing. That seems that the ego tried that after I speak with you, David, about one day that you give me clarification that I think the lesson was that the body is neutral, something like that, and have that the body not can be seen, neither innocent. And for me is that this false self not can be nothing, not can be seen, not can be innocent. And after that, something shift in my mind. And I'm not compromised with my mind, with whatever coming up for me. I'm expressed, but with the really deeper prayer, please show me the truth. I want to release that. I know that it's nothing. It's false. Show me that it's false. But now seems that the ego try to use Wesley to compromise. And he not ready to let go and ask me to join with him in the fast. And I say, no, I'm here to pray to let go when you are ready. But I don't want to hold the false self because you are my mind, not something external to my mind. And feel that if compromise with him and pleasing him, pleasing with the ego, and shift my mind again with the false and feel the same word like before. And I know one go back in this way, but I don't know how be gentle with him and not compromise in any way. And this is my question. Tell me, please.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's so beautiful that you both have dedicated your relationship to healing and to forgiveness, and the desire or the temptation to please to please a partner is so accepted in the sleeping mind. It's almost widely accepted, where if you said that to somebody on the street, you know, do you feel you are to please your partner? They would just say, of course, of course, of course. It just shows you how widely accepted something can be. And yet, when you go much deeper in this prayer of your heart, you want to be able to say what feels is given you to say with a state of calmness. So I think you are starting to speak up what you really feel in your heart. But it's just this kind of nagging afterthought of a belief that is trying to be hard on your mind, saying, what are you doing? You're not taking into account your partner's position or your partner's thoughts, but you're wanting to go really into the prayer, to pray on it, and to stay with it, and to stay with it. So I think that movie we watched yesterday, Nectarius, you said you even had a roommate who had introduced you to him, that basically we could see Nectarius in one scene after the next having to stand in what he felt when he was in Egypt and he went in to see Sophronis. They wouldn't let him in. First they said he's sick and he doesn't want to see you. And then he went back again. Didn't you read the letter? He had to just stay with his prayer because it was in the face of, no, you know, we're not going to allow it. And then all the way through the movie, you saw him standing in the prayer, standing strong, standing up in the prayer of the heart. And then it grows stronger when you do that. So it is only a temptation. But when the temptation comes, it may come to try to influence you that you have to be loud or you have to say it in a very, very strong way to stand in it. But that's the time to just go back in your heart and stand in it in your heart. Because when we feel like we have to make a point, or we have to convince somebody, it's really us doubting about our own embracing. That's when we seem to try to convince another. And you don't have to compromise, you know, that's the beautiful thing in this journey. You don't have to compromise. And Jesus says salvation is no compromise of any kind. Wow. He's giving us permission to really go for it. And I think I mentioned also, we do have another movie coming up. It was that Robin Roberts presents Mahalia Jackson. And probably one of these weeks we're going to be showing that. But you'll find there another witness to someone who had a great gift of singing, but she just couldn't compromise the use of that gift for anything other than what she felt inspired with. And she grew very strong in the gift. In fact, it was like a huge gift for the whole universe. So if you can watch that movie, or you can just be patient, we'll try to get around to that movie. I think that will be a great movie to help give you a strengthening what you're going through. And also she's an excellent role model of demonstrating, oh, this is how it's done. And you see her do it one scene after the next for her whole life. She's just going to stand strong and not compromise. So thank you for sharing that. That was for everyone, you know. Everyone wants to be in that place of non-compromise. But Wesley, I saw you put your hand up too. You have something to share?
Yeah, so the end of this session is just purely guidance for me. Everything's really clear. I was having the thought of shaving my head, and I thought I've done it lots, and it's always a symbol of some sort of release, a new beginning for me. But I had this doubt thought that it was cold, and I was like, maybe not. Maybe that's not guidance. It's winter. Winter in Mexico. So thank you, Jean, for being the messenger of the Holy Spirit, to show me. And last night I also had this thought that I was to share a song in the session today, and I felt kind of fearful about that. And then Tanya was sharing about her miracle in the morning and how her body was shaking, and there was just so much joy, and my body started to shake and I started to cry. And I know 0 songs. I know 0 songs that I can play from the beginning to the end. I don't know the chords to any songs that I can play all the chords, but I can make songs up. The Spirit gives me songs, something to say in the moment, and sometimes it sounds funny and strange. And every Friday we've been doing a miracles through music session in Tribe, and it's been really powerful because there's this inspiration that comes to just sing, and I don't know what's going to come. So I'd like to do that right now. Yeah, I feel pretty vulnerable about that. But I'm gonna try, if that's okay.
Yeah, give us an inspired ditty.
And at this moment, my phone finally turns on after not having battery for a while. So that was.
Oh, and the puppy dog joins in. The whole family's there. He's here for your emotional support.
I feel like it.
Always.
Yeah, he is the emotional support dog, definitely.
So peaceful.
I'm feeling some anxiety, and it's all inside of me, but I want to let it go. Holy Spirit, let me know what I should do, what I should say, what you want me to do. I'll pray to you today. Oh, Holy Spirit, let me hear it. I wanna be happy. Let me let go of feeling so crappy inside. Let go of this pride. I just wanna cry your tears of joy. Oh yeah, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, 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 oh, hey, Holy Spirit, what are you doing? Listen to me now. I'm just grooving to the music and I'm flowing. Oh, Holy Spirit, you know it. Hey, Holy Spirit, now I wanna be in your crown, in your kingdom. Let me be there now. Hey, Holy Spirit, are you with me? Can you hear it? I think you can. I know, God, you got a plan for me and for my brothers now. And we wanna see, Holy Spirit, we wanna see with your eyes of divinity. Hey, oh, hey, 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 yeah, oh, hey, oh, hey,
I'm gonna drop it now, put it down on the floor, and let it go, let it roll, let it flow like a river down. Wow, wow.
That's beautiful. That's ending on a high note. That's pretty good. That sounds like a full song to me. It is. It's Wesley's first song ever, from beginning to end. Oh, well, thank you all for joining us. We love you so dearly. We're so grateful that you joined in, and we feel all the love, and that's what we're here for, is to just share the love together. So God bless you all, and look forward to the next time we can come together like this. Thank you.